Hello, everyone. Tonight we are slipping into a world that hums with the low rumble of distant thunder and the sharp, sweet scent of petrichor. Yes, that fancy word for the smell just before rain. The air is thick, heavy, like the sky is holding its breath, and you're trudging along a forgotten floodplain where each step sinks a little too deep into the soft, ancient earth. The clouds above churn like something alive, and somewhere behind you a streak of lightning dares to touch the horizon. You probably won't survive 5 minutes out here without getting drenched or zapped, unless you move fast. But where's the fun in that? So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. And hey, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is. I love knowing which part of the world is staying up with me. Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You shuffle forward, boots squelching in the soft mud, and there it is. A tangle of tracks, loops, and curls stamped deep into the floodplain's skin. These aren't the clean, purposeful prints of a predator on the hunt or a herd on the move. No, these are different. They wind and circle, as if whoever made them couldn't decide where they were going or maybe didn't want to go anywhere at all. You crouch trying to trace their path, and the first thing that strikes you is how fresh they are. Edges still sharp, the surface not yet softened by the coming rain. A breeze stirs, carrying with it the taste of ozone, and you straighten up just in time to spot something on a low ridge ahead. A shape maybe man-sized, maybe bigger. It moves oddly, shifting from side to side, pausing, then shuffling in place. You blink, wipe the drizzle from your eyes, and squint into the gloom. It's no tree, no boulder. The silhouette is unmistakably animal. But what animal would waste energy pacing in circles with a storm closing in? Historians still debate whether ancient creatures could truly sense rain coming in the way we romanticize today. Some argue it's pure coincidence, movement, triggered by falling pressure, or the flicker of distant lightning. But here you are watching what sure looks like a dinosaur cutting a clumsy rug just as the sky darkens. The odd fact, some modern birds, yes, even pigeons of all things, have been observed performing repetitive steps right before storms. Is it instinct, a leftover quirk from ancient ancestors? Nature's way of throwing a pre-rain party nobody knows. Your foot slips on a patch of wet clay and you nearly tumble face first into the tracks. You mutter something unrepeatable but tame enough for this PG-13 outing, steadying yourself as another roll of thunder shudders through the air. And now something about those prints looks deliberate. The loops interlock like a pattern, the arcs wide in some places, tight in others, almost as if whoever made them knew exactly how they wanted the mud to remember their steps. You glance skyward again, noting how the clouds have thickened, their underbellies glowing faintly with the last light of the setting sun. The world feels small here, caught between the heavy dome of the storm and the sodden earth below. It's the kind of setting that makes you feel like the tiniest, most insignificant blip on history's radar. The kind of place where you wouldn't be surprised if the ground itself sighed in relief when the rain finally fell. But that shape on the ridge, yeah, it's still there. And now it's turned your way, or at least you think it has. Hard to tell at this distance. The figure pauses again as if weighing its next move. The breeze brings with it a new scent, sharp green, the smell of crushed ferns and wet bark. And with it, the first fat raindrop smacks the back of your hand. You flinch even though it's just water and then smile at yourself. Like that drop was the worst of your worries out here. There's a joke in there somewhere about people who go chasing dinosaurs in the middle of a storm. You could almost hear a friend's voice teasing, "Great plan, genius." What's next? Hugging a crocodile. You brush the mud from your knees and take a cautious step toward the ridge. Each footfall brings a satisfying squish, as if the land itself is reluctantly giving way beneath you. And for just a moment, as the wind picks up and the storm's first real gust rattles through the grasses, you wonder what it would have felt like to be that dancing dinosaur. To feel the pressure shift, to sense the storm in your bones, to move because not moving felt wrong. Could this be how ancient creatures prepared for nature's fury? Or was it something else? A mating display, a territorial signal, or just the prehistoric equivalent of nervous pacing before a test? You'll never know, of course. But isn't that what makes this all so maddeningly magical? The gaps, the guesses, the ghostly footprints in the mud that vanish with the next downpour. You shake your head, grinning at the absurdity of it all, as another raindrop splats right between your eyes. You wipe the rain from your face, though. What's the point, really? The drizzle has turned into a steady patter now, and the air hums with that tense energy. Storms always bring the kind that makes the hairs on your arms stand at attention, like they know something's coming. You squint up at the figure on the ridge. It's clearer now, long-limbed tail stretched behind like a counterweight and a head that bobs gently with each movement. It's definitely a dinosaur. And it's definitely dancing. Okay, maybe dancing is a stretch, but what else would you call it? The creature rocks from side to side, one foot lifting, then the other like it's keeping rhythm with some ancient beat only it can hear. Every so often, it does this weird little hop just one, then settles back into that side-to-side sway. It looks both graceful and ridiculous, kind of like you at your cousin's wedding trying to follow the steps to that line dance everyone else knows. The lightning flashes again, casting the dinosaur in stark relief against the dark clouds. For a heartbeat, you see it perfectly. Slender. Snout pointed skyward, arms out like a conductor legs working in some wild pattern. And then, the night swallows it whole once more, leaving just the memory of that strange silhouette burned behind your eyes. There's actually evidence that some small and mid-sized theropods may have exhibited display behaviors. Head bobbing, foot stomping, maybe even a kind of prance. Fossilized trackways in Argentina show odd looping patterns from creatures that weren't traveling anywhere in particular. Some paleontologists think they might have been mating dances or territorial displays. Others suggest they could have been, well, practice runs. Because let's face it, survival's tough when you're a snack-sized predator trying to stay off a bigger predator's menu. Historians still debate whether these behaviors had anything to do with weather. Could ancient creatures really sense the storm's approach and react to it? Or do we just like the idea because it makes them seem more like us, you know? Anxious, excitable, prone to doing silly things when the skies turn mean. You take another step, boots sliding in the wet grass, and mutter a quiet whoops as you almost eat mud. The dinosaur, meanwhile, seems oblivious to everything except its own movements. And maybe the storm, too. The wind picks up, tugging at its feathers because, yes, in case you missed that memo, this one's feathered. A scrappy little beast, all wiry muscle and rain-darkened plumage with streaks of rusty red that catch the light when the lightning obliges. It makes another hop, landing with a splash that echoes across the ridge. You can almost hear it saying, "Ta-da! Did you see that one?" And then it pauses again, head cocked as if listening to your thoughts or maybe to the storm's slow, steady drum roll. Here's an odd fact for your brain to chew on while you stand there getting soaked. Some species of kangaroos are known to dance or box just before a downpour, especially in the Australian outback. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe animals have always had a way of sensing the shift of preparing in ways we still don't fully understand. Your jacket sticks to your back now and your boots feel heavier with every step, but you keep moving closer. The dinosaur notices you at last. Its head snaps around, eyes wide, and for a second it freezes just like you do when you realize you've texted the wrong group chat. Then with a flick of its tail it resumes its dance, only now it's moving with more energy, more urgency. The steps come faster, the hops higher. You feel like you've stumbled into some prehistoric concert where the headliner is playing just for the storm. The rain hisses against the rock, against the grass, against your skin. The air smells like wet stone and crushed leaves, and somewhere far off, a predator bellows a low, haunting sound that rolls across the plain like a warning. The dinosaur doesn't stop. If anything, it kicks its routine up a notch. You swear you see it leap and spin just once before landing back in that steady side-to-side sway. And for a heartbeat, you can't help but admire it. Here's this small creature alone against the storm dancing not for you, not for safety, but because something deep in its bones tells it to. You edge closer, heart pounding, and wonder if it'll let you near enough to see its tracks. But the dinosaur has other plans. It lets out a sharp, almost chirping cry, and with one final hop, it turns and bounds down the far side of the ridge, its feet splashing in puddles as it goes. You're left standing in the rain, watching its outline fade into the gloom. The storm rumbles overhead, a reminder that it's just getting started. And well, you probably won't survive this storm without a thorough soaking, but at least you've got one heck of a story to tell if you make it back, that is. You stand there for a long moment, letting the rain run down your face, the chill seeping through your clothes, wondering if you imagined the whole thing. But no. The tracks are still there, stamped deep into the wet earth, looping and spiraling in a pattern that defies logic. You start walking again, boots squelching, following the trail the little dancer left behind as it vanished into the storm's embrace. The sky above has gone from bruised purple to near black clouds, stacked like boulders ready to come crashing down. Lightning forks across the horizon, and in that flash you catch sight of the floodplain stretching far and wide, broken only by the occasional cluster of low trees and scattered boulders that look in the dark like hunched beasts watching you pass. The wind is all around now, tugging at your sleeves, carrying with it the smell of distant rain mixing with the mud beneath your feet. The dinosaur's prints weave ahead, looping here, crisscrossing there, as if it couldn't decide on a path or was following some rhythm you can't hear. The thought crosses your mind that maybe this was its way of mapping the storm, like an ancient meteorologist drawing lines and shapes in the mud to read what the sky planned next. Historians still debate whether creatures like this could actually sense barometric changes, or if we just love to project our weather paranoia onto them. Your foot lands square in one of the deeper prints and water splashes up your leg. Well done, you mutter to yourself. You can almost hear a voice in your head saying, "Remember when we invented waterproof boots? Yeah, neither do you." Another gust of wind shoves at you, and you quicken your pace, head low against the rain that's starting to fall harder now. Here's a weird fact for you: the sound of raindrops hitting different surfaces. Mud water. Rock can actually help some animals gauge how far away a storm is. Frogs, for instance, have been known to adjust their calls depending on the acoustics of an incoming storm. So maybe that dinosaur wasn't just dancing. Maybe it was listening. You follow the tracks down into a hollow where the ground dips and the water pools, and you can see the footprints more clearly now. They form wide arcs, then tighten like the dinosaur was spinning slowly, marking its territory or maybe performing for the clouds. The mud here is softer and the prints are crisp, the claw marks clear at the tips. You crouch and touch the edge of one half, expecting it to be warm. Silly, of course, it's just mud. But still, the connection feels real, like shaking hands with history. Lightning tears the sky open again, and this time you hear the crack of thunder almost immediately, so close it rattles your teeth. You jump because, hey, even prehistoric explorers get spooked. The rain's coming down harder now, pounding the earth, filling the prints, erasing their edges one drop at a time. It's like watching the past vanish right in front of you. You straighten and scan the ridgeline ahead, hoping for another glimpse of the dancer. But all you see are shadows and streaks of rain. The storm is here in full force, and you're just a soggy speck beneath it. You think about turning back, about finding shelter before the next lightning strike decides you look like a fun target. But curiosity is a stubborn thing, isn't it? Especially out here where every step feels like you're walking in two worlds at once, the now and the then. You keep moving, following the trail as it loops back on itself, then veers toward a cluster of boulders. The pattern of the tracks feels deliberate now, like the dinosaur was tracing a map only it could read. And maybe that's what it was, a way to chart the safest path, to mark a spot where the ground was firmest, or to confuse whatever predator might have been following. The wind howls through the rocks, making them hum with a low, eerie note that sets your nerves on edge. The rain lashes at your face, stinging like needles, and you pull your hood up, though it does little good. You pause at the boulders, hoping for shelter, but they offer none, just cold, wet stone, slick with moss and rain. A flash of movement catches your eye, a shadow darting between rocks low to the ground. You freeze, heart hammering. Another dancer, or something else. The storm roars above, and for a moment the world feels wild, untamed, exactly as it must have been when creatures like your dancer ruled this land. You take a breath, tasting rain and fear, and step forward again. The tracks lead on, looping, always like a melody you can't quite catch. And overhead the storm plays its own rhythm, the drum of rain, the crash of thunder, the wail of wind. Somewhere in that chaos, you swear you can still hear the echo of ancient footsteps dancing in time with the storm. The storm's music surrounds you now. Rain drumming on stone and leaf wind howling. Through gaps in the rocks, thunder cracking like the sky itself is splitting apart. And beneath all of that, the softest sound, the squelch of your boots as you follow the dinosaur's trail. The prints have changed here, you notice. The wild spirals and arcs have become more precise, tighter, like the creature's steps were less about frenzy and more about purpose. You slow down, squinting through the sheets of rain to make sense of the pattern. The tracks loop and cross themselves, creating shapes that remind you of a spiral drawn by a child's hand, or maybe a ritual circle. You chuckle under your breath, half at the absurdity of the thought, half at the absurdity of yourself standing in a prehistoric storm trying to read dinosaur footprints like tea leaves. Historians still debate whether patterns like these in fossilized trackways were the result of actual ritual behaviors or just animals pacing nervously, trapped or indecisive. The famous Lark Quarry track site in Australia, for instance, shows a chaotic scatter of prints, once thought to be a stampede, but now argued over endlessly. Was it a predator ambush? A migration bottleneck? Or just a bunch of critters losing their prehistoric minds in a downpour like this one? The rainwater pools in the deepest parts of the tracks, making them shimmer like mirrors. You crouch down and trace the edge of one with your finger, the mud cool and slick under your touch. It's funny, in a way. You came out here looking for evidence of ancient life, and now you're soaking wet, filthy, and feeling like you've stumbled onto the scene of some secret ceremony. An odd fact drifts into your mind, probably dredged up by the storm's mood. There are birds today, plovers specifically, that will trace shapes in the sand or mud to confuse predators or signal potential mates. Could this dinosaur have been doing something similar? Drawing a symbol only its own kind would understand? The thought makes you grin. Imagine that ancient graffiti signed in mud and rain, and lightning flickers again, lighting up the floodplain in stark silver. The world holds its breath for a heartbeat, then the thunder follows so loud it feels like the earth itself is groaning. You glance around, half expecting to see the dancer again framed in that fleeting glow, but the landscape is empty. Just rocks, grass flattened by the storm, and your own lonely trail weaving after the vanished creature. You stand and stretch, water dripping from your sleeves, and take a deep breath of the storm's sharp, clean air. The tracks lead onward, winding toward a rise in the ground where a few scraggly trees cling to the earth. You can see how the dinosaur's prints spiral tighter there, as if it paused beneath those branches, maybe sheltering, maybe marking the spot. The wind shifts, bringing a new smell: wet bark, crushed grass, and something faintly metallic like the tang of lightning on stone. You shiver, not from cold, but from the feeling that you're close to understanding something. Close to seeing the world as the dancer saw it. The rain patters on the leaves above, a softer rhythm now, like the storm's anger is starting to fade. You move toward the trees, the ground firmer here, less treacherous. Each step brings you deeper into the heart of this strange pattern, the prints forming a loose spiral that seems to draw you in. You half expect to find the dinosaur waiting at the center, watching you with bright, curious eyes. But of course, it's long gone, vanished into the rain and night like a ghost. Still, you feel its presence in the marks it left behind. The way the tracks form not just a trail, but a memory written in mud. A message, perhaps, though, one you'll never be able to read. And that's the magic of it, isn't it? The not knowing, the wondering, the footprints that lead nowhere and everywhere at once. You pause beneath the trees, the rain gentler, now dripping from the leaves like the world is weeping for all it has lost. You look back at the path you followed, the looping tracks, the spiral prints, your own muddy boot marks, crossing and recrossing them like a clumsy signature. The storm's song softens the thunder, rolling away into the distance, leaving just the whisper of rain and the sigh of wind through wet grass. And somewhere out there you imagine the dancer moves, still its steps lost to time but not to memory. A creature of storm and rhythm of mud and rain whose footprints will soon be gone but whose dance you'll never forget. You stay beneath those scraggly trees longer than you probably should, listening to the soft patter of rain on the leaves, watching how the water gathers in the dinosaur's prints before spilling over the edges, tracing thin streams down the slope. The air hums with the storm's fading energy, as if the land itself is catching its breath after the chaos. And there in the hush that follows, the fury, you notice something you hadn't before. The dinosaur's tracks don't just spiral for the sake of it. They stop abruptly, cleanly at the edge of a shallow dip in the land. You step closer, mud sucking at your boots, and peer down. The print at the very end is deeper, as if the creature paused, pressed its weight down, and tilted its head to the sky. You can almost see it standing still as the first fat drops fell, feeling the shift of the wind, the scent of ozone curling into its nostrils. Historians still debate whether creatures like this could sense the storm before it hit, whether they felt the pressure change in their hollow bones, or if their movements were simply instinct, no different from the way modern animals seek shelter when the first raindrops fall. But here, now looking at the print half filled with rainwater, you can't help but believe the dinosaur knew exactly what was coming. You glance skyward. The clouds are still thick, but the worst of the storm seems to have passed. The rain is steady now, no longer the violent sheets that lashed at you earlier. The air smells sharp and green, alive with the scent of crushed grass and wet earth. Here's an odd fact that floats through your mind as you watch the rain fill that final print. Some insects, yes, even humble ants, are known to change their foraging patterns before a storm, retreating to their nests, hours in advance, as if they have some secret barometer built into their tiny bodies. Maybe the dinosaur's dance was part of that same ancient rhythm, a way of preparing for what the sky was about to unleash. You crouch beside the last footprint, tracing its edge, with a finger feeling the cool water lap against your skin. The print is fresh, the claw marks sharp, the impression deep enough that the mud holds its shape even as the rain tries to erase it. The dinosaur had stopped here, stopped and listened, maybe, or simply waited for the storm to speak first. The wind shifts again, bringing with it the soft groan of tree branches swaying above you. You feel small here, caught between earth and sky, between the ancient and the now. The dinosaur's pause feels meaningful, as if in that moment it acknowledged the storm as an equal, not a threat. You stand stretching your aching knees and look out over the floodplain. The prints behind you already begin to blur at the edges, rainwater smoothing them into shallow pools, the patterns disappearing into the mud as if they had never been. But that final print, that deep, still pool at the edge of the dip, holds firm. For now, you take a step back, unwilling to disturb it, and let out a long breath. The storm's voice has softened thunder now, a distant grumble, the lightning's fury spent. The world feels hushed, as if waiting for the next act. And somewhere out there, you imagine the dancer has moved on steps, hidden now, beneath the rain's gentle fingers, leaving behind only this last trace of its presence. And you're left with questions, of course. Was this print just the end of a random path, the last step of a creature that had nowhere better to go? Or was it a deliberate pause, a moment of connection between beast and storm, written in mud and rain for no one but itself to witness? You'll never know. But standing there, soaked and breathless, you can't help but feel like you've seen something sacred. Something the rain tried to wash away but couldn't, not just yet. The rain comes harder now, though not in that furious, sideways lashing way of the storm's peak. No, this is steadier, more deliberate, each drop heavy enough to feel on your skin, to hear as it smacks into the mud, into the pooling water, in the footprints, into the leaves above. You pull your hood tighter as if that'll make a difference at this point. The dinosaur's trail, if you can call it that, picks up again beyond the dip. The prints resume wider apart now, as though the creature had gathered itself and begun to move with new purpose. The steps are strange, though. Not the straight-line stride of an animal fleeing or the zigzag of a creature trying to lose a pursuer. No, these are different. The prints curve back on themselves, then shoot off at odd angles only to loop again, as if the dinosaur had surrendered to some internal music, letting the rhythm of the rain guide its feet. You follow boots slipping on the slick ground, rain dripping from your nose, the smell of wet earth filling your senses. And there, in a patch of firmer ground, you see it, the prints arranged in a rough arc, the claw marks more pronounced, as though the creature had pounded its feet harder with each step. Was this its dance reaching a climax, a final defiance against the storm? Or simply the last burst of energy before it moved on to safer ground? Historians still debate whether these kinds of track patterns were intentional displays or just the byproduct of creatures trying to navigate treacherous terrain. Some argue that what looks like a ritual or a dance could simply be the confused meanderings of a dinosaur caught between fear and instinct. But looking at these prints now, you find it hard to believe there wasn't some intention behind them. And here's a fun fact to chew on while you're out here getting drenched. Some modern birds, like the Japanese crane, are known to perform intricate dances in the rain rituals of courtship, of bonding, of pure exuberance. Maybe your dancer wasn't so different. Maybe it felt the rain and couldn't help but move, letting the storm carry its steps the way the wind carries leaves. You pause at the arc of prints, feeling the drum of the rain against your back, and try to imagine what it looked like, this strange, feathered beast moving with the storm. The claws digging deep, the tail sweeping behind the head, bobbing in time with the rhythm of the falling rain. You can almost see it, can't you? A flash of red, plumage, a glint of eye, a hop, a skip, a spin. The storm's partner in some ancient waltz. You step around the prints carefully, not wanting to disturb them, though you know the rain will do that soon enough. The water gathers at your feet, small streams running between the tracks, turning the ground into a muddy mosaic of the past and present. And somewhere out there, the dinosaur is still moving its dance, hidden now by the veil of rain, its footprints soon to be nothing more than memory. You glance up as lightning flickers again, the thunder rolling slower now, farther away. The storm is moving on, leaving behind the battered plane and the marks of the dancer's passage, and you're left standing in the rain, wondering at the meaning of it all. Was the dance a call to others, a signal to stay close or stay away? Was it a way of marking territory, of claiming a patch of ground in the face of the storm's fury? Or was it something else entirely, something you'll never understand? No matter how long you study the tracks, you take one last look at the prints now, softening at the edges, water pooling in the deepest parts, the rain's gentle fingers smoothing away their sharpness. And then you turn, leaving the arc behind your own boot prints, mingling with the ancient steps as you walk back toward the shelter of the trees. The rain falls steady around you, the storm's song, now a lullaby, the dance of the dinosaur. A memory etched in mud and rain and wonder. The storm has softened, but the rain lingers steady as a heartbeat, filling the prints with water, until they reflect the gray sky like tiny broken mirrors. You pause, watching as the dance begins to disappear, swallowed by the mud, blurred by the ripples of falling drops. It's like the land is erasing the memory before you've even had a chance to fully understand it. And still, you stand there, unable to look away. You crouch beside one of the fresher prints, now nearly brimming with rainwater, and peer into it as if expecting answers. The mud at the bottom is dark and fine, The claw marks faint now, but still they're ghosts of movement, of purpose. The rain's rhythm drums softly around you, and for a moment it feels like the world has grown very small. Like you, and these prints are the only things left. Historians still debate whether these prints, when found fossilized millions of years later, can ever truly tell us the full story. Trackways are snapshots, frozen moments, but the meaning behind the steps. That's where the guesswork begins. Some paleontologists argue that certain loops and spirals in trackways represent social behavior, even communication. Others see only random wandering the marks of a creature with nowhere in particular to go. You glance back at your own trail, a mess of boot prints crisscrossing the ancient path, and chuckle under your breath. Well, I'm no better, you murmur. Whoever digs these up someday will think I had no clue where I was going. And maybe they'd be right. An odd fact bubbles up in your mind unbidden. Some modern birds will deliberately create decoy tracks around their nests to confuse predators. They'll walk in wide circles, double back on themselves, even hop to one side or the other, all in an effort to hide what matters most. Maybe that's what the dancer was doing, marking the ground not as a stage, but as a shield, a way to protect something unseen. You stand, boots sinking a little deeper with the motion, and brush wet hair from your face. The storm's voice is fading now, the thunder. A distant mumble. The lightning no more than flickers on the horizon. The land feels quieter, gentler, as if the worst of its fury has passed. The prints at your feet, though, are fading fast, the rain working its slow magic, turning sharp edges to soft curves, filling hollows with silvered water. And yet, despite the rain's best efforts, the memory remains. You can see the pattern still, the loops, the spirals, the arcs that spoke of a creature's dance or ritual or random steps. Whatever the truth, it's etched in your mind now, as clear as the prints had been before the rain began its erasure. You turn finally and begin to walk back, each step a soft squelch, the mud clinging to your boots like it doesn't want to let you go. The rain patters around you, a steady, soothing sound, and for the first time in hours you feel the tension ease from your shoulders. The storm has passed, the dancer is gone, but the story remains written in mud and rain and the quiet wonder of what once was. You pick your way across the sodden ground, boots heavy with clinging mud eyes, still searching for more signs of the dancer. The rain softens to a drizzle now, but every so often the wind gusts, rattling the grasses and making the trees creak like ancient bones. You glance over your shoulder at the prints you've left behind, messy and aimless beside the dancer's elegant looping trail. Funny how your own steps feel clumsy in comparison, as if you're the intruder here and not the storm. The tracks lead you toward a shallow hollow where rainwater pools reflecting the bruised sky. The dinosaur's prints skirt the edge as if it had hesitated at the water's rim. Here, the mud is softer, deeper, each print pressed hard into the earth, the claws scoring deep grooves. It's as though the dancer had felt the weight of the storm on its back and pushed harder against the ground, leaving a clearer mark behind. You kneel by one of the deepest prints, water lapping at its edges, and trace the groove left by a claw. The mud is cold, slick, and dark as old blood beneath your fingertips. You wonder what the creature had felt in that moment, a need to mark its presence, to steady itself against the storm. Historians still debate whether such deliberate-looking prints were signs of stress, of ritual, or simply the result of a creature fighting to stay upright in bad weather. The theories swirl as endlessly as the storm clouds above. And here's an odd fact to puzzle over as you crouch there in the wet. Some modern animals, like elephants, will stomp or drum the ground during storms, perhaps feeling vibrations through their sensitive feet. Could the dancer's heavy steps have been part of something similar? A way of listening to the storm or speaking to it. You rise, wiping your muddy hands on your already soaked pants, and let out a slow breath. The air smells fresh now, scrubbed clean by the rain. The storm's fury is spent, leaving behind a hush that feels almost sacred. The world feels paused, as if waiting for the next move, yours perhaps, or maybe the dancer's. The prints continue beyond the hollow, looping again, but wider this time, as if the dancer had let go of whatever rhythm drove its earlier steps. The ground here is firmer, the prints fainter, the storm's fingers already working to smooth them away. You follow them anyway, drawn onward by the need to see where they lead, what story they might still be telling. The wind carries the distant cry of some unseen animal, a predator perhaps, or just another creature shaken by the storm. You shiver not from cold, but from the sense of being watched, as if the dancer's spirit lingers here invisible but present. You whisper to the empty plain, "Where did you go?" But of course there's no answer. Only the rain, the wind, and the soft squelch of your boots in the mud. You walk on feeling the weight of the storm lift from your shoulders, replaced by something gentler. Wonder. The prints grow fainter still, until at last they disappear into a stretch of ground where the rain has erased all trace. But you don't feel disappointment. Instead, you feel honored, privileged to have witnessed the dance, however fleetingly. The storm leaves behind a world that feels new, scrubbed clean, but also strangely hollow, like the air itself is waiting for the dancer's next step. You keep moving, boots dragging now, heavy with mud and fatigue, but your eyes stay sharp, scanning the ground for any last traces. The prints have all but vanished, smoothed by the rain's patient work, but you still see them in your mind. The looping paths, the deep claw marks, the wild arcs that felt like music made visible. And then you hear it. A faint, hollow sound carried on the breeze. You freeze, heart-pounding, listening. There it is again, a soft clatter, rhythmic, almost musical, like bones knocking together in time with the drip of rain. You turn toward the sound, the wind bringing it closer, clearer. It's coming from beyond a stand of battered trees where the land dips again into another hollow. You move toward it, careful now, the mud slick underfoot. The sound grows louder with each step, a dry, hollow rattle that seems out of place in this wet, softened world. And when you round the trees, you see the source. A skeleton, but not a dead one. The dancer is there, alive, moving still. Its frame is lighter than you expected, the body built for speed and grace. Feathers clinging wetly to its sides, tail raised for balance. And as it moves, you realize what you're hearing. The sound of its own bones, hollow, and light clicking softly together as it steps, as it bobs its head, as it shifts from foot to foot. The storm's partner still dancing. Historians still debate whether certain dinosaurs had skeletons as hollow as modern birds. Some evidence suggests that at least some small theropods did, their bones light and airy, perfect for fast movement, and maybe for the kind of intricate steps you're witnessing now. The dancer seems to sway with the last of the storm's breeze, its movement slower now, more deliberate, like it's winding down from the frenzied rhythm that came before. And here's an odd fact to tuck away. Some species of modern geese and cranes will perform post-storm dances almost as if thanking the sky for the rain. You wonder if this little dinosaur is doing the same, offering its last steps as tribute to the storm's retreating power. You stand mesmerized as the dancer moves across the hollow feet, splashing in shallow puddles, head bobbing with each careful step. The soft clatter of its hollow bones keeps time with the rain's gentle patter, a duet of ancient sound. The dinosaur pauses, tail flicking, and for a heartbeat it seems to meet your gaze, though you know that's just your imagination painting meaning onto the moment. And then, with a final hop, it turns and slips away, vanishing between the trees, the sound of its bones fading with each step, until there's only the rain again, soft and steady. You let out a breath you didn't realize you were holding and smile despite the cold, despite the wet, because you've seen something few ever will. A dance for the storm performed in a language older than words. The hollow feels emptier now that the dancer is gone, as if the world has exhaled and left you standing in the quiet that follows. The rain is no more than a fine mist now, drifting in on the breeze, soft enough that you can hear the small sounds beneath it. The drip of water from the trees, the rustle of wet grass as the wind nudges it, the distant rumble of thunder retreating over the horizon. You stand still listening, hoping for one more clatter of hollow bones, one last glimpse of feathers in motion. But the dancer has moved on. You look out across the plain, the land silvered by water, every hollow and dip filled with shallow pools that mirror the broken sky. And there off to the east you catch a flicker of movement as lightning forks across the clouds. For a heartbeat, the land is lit up in stark contrast, the rocks black against the pale grass, the pools glinting like glass, and there, yes, their shapes moving. More dancers. Your breath catches as the lightning fades, plunging the world back into its damp gloom. You blink, trying to adjust your eyes, straining to see if you imagined it. But then another bolt streaks across the sky, and you see them again, three, maybe four figures smaller than the first, moving with the same odd rhythm. Hopping, swaying, pausing, stepping. Like notes in a silent song that only the storm can hear. Historians still debate whether dinosaurs displayed group behaviors like this during storms, whether they gathered for safety, for ritual, or simply because the storm drove them together. The fossil record offers hints but no firm answers, and the arguments rage on in academic circles. You're watching it happen, or at least you think you are. And that's better than any journal article. You move toward them, feet splashing through the puddles, mud sucking at your boots. The dancers keep their distance, always just at the edge of clarity shapes, framed by the flickering light of the storm. They move in unison sometimes, then break apart, only to loop back together. Their steps leave fresh prints in the softened earth, more patterns for the rain to blur. Here's an odd fact to toss into the mix. In modern times, some species of flamingos are known to perform synchronized group dances before rainstorms, possibly to strengthen bonds or calm their nerves. Maybe these ancient creatures were doing something similar, binding their group together against the storm's fury. You pause on a low rise, breathless, not from exertion but from the wonder of it all. The dancers move below you, shadows. In the storm's fading light, their steps soft and sure in the mud. And then, as if the storm itself gives a final cue, the lightning flickers one last time, and when the light fades, the shapes are gone, melted into the landscape, hidden by the rain and night. You stand alone now. The storm's voice reduced to whispers, the thunder no more than a memory. The dancers are gone, but their steps remain fleeting marks on the land, soon to be smoothed away by time, by water, by the endless patience of the earth. You turn at last, ready to leave, the hollow boots heavy with mud, heart light with wonder. You've seen what few ever have, the storm's silent partners dancing at the edge of the world. You head down from the rise, boots slipping in the slick mud, your eyes still searching the dim horizon for any sign of the dancers. But they're gone now, melted into the rain and night, leaving only those fleeting water-filled prints behind. The storm has eased into a gentle rain, the kind that soaks you through without you even noticing until your clothes cling and your hair drips. And still, you can't bring yourself to hurry. The land is quiet now, except for the soft hiss of the rain and the occasional creak of branches shifting under the weight of water. And then, faint but unmistakable, you hear it, a splash, a rustle, the sound of movement through the wet grass. You freeze, heart pounding, listening. And they're not 50 paces off. A small dancer slips through the puddles, feet light, head low. You crouch behind a rock, watching as the creature moves its steps, careful, its body blending with the shadows. The rain masks its sound just as it masks yours, and that's when it hits you. The storm isn't just the dancer's stage, it's its shield. The rain hides its scent, the thunder muffles its steps, the wind confuses whatever predators might be out there hunting in the dark. Historians still debate whether small theropods used weather like this to their advantage. Some think they might have learned to move under cover of storms when their tracks would wash away and their scent would be harder to follow. Others argue that's giving them too much credit, that survival was more about luck than strategy. But watching this little creature move, you can't help but wonder. And here's an odd fact to tuck into your pocket. Some modern animals, like certain species of wild pigs, will wait until heavy rain to move through dangerous areas, knowing the storm will cover their tracks. Maybe the dancer wasn't just performing for the storm, maybe it was working with it. You follow at a distance, careful not to splash, not to break a twig, though you know the rain does a better job of masking your noise than you ever could. The dancer pauses at the edge of a flooded hollow, head tilted, as if listening, tail twitching in thought. Then with a small hop it crosses to firmer ground, its steps light and quick. You stay still, breath held, not wanting to break the fragile connection between you and this fleeting moment. The rain softens further, little more than a mist now, and you can feel the world settling. The storm's rage spent, leaving behind a clean, quiet emptiness. The dancer moves on, vanishing into a stand of trees, its steps swallowed by the night. You're left alone with the prints it left behind, sharp at first, then softer, then gone. The rain blurring the story as fast as it was written. You sigh, the sound loud in the hush, and turn back toward where you came, boots heavy, clothes soaked, but heart strangely light. The storm, the dance, the prints, all fleeting, all beautiful, all part of a world that feels bigger, older, and more mysterious than ever. You trace your path back across the floodplain, boots squelching in the sodden earth, eyes drawn again and again to where the prints once were. But now the storm has done its quiet work. The loops and spirals, the arcs and pauses, the intricate map of the dancer's strange ritual are gone. What remains is smooth mud glistening in the faint silver light of the clearing sky, as if no creature ever passed this way at all. It's a humbling sight, really. The storm erased the evidence with such ease, as if the dance had been for the rain's eyes alone, never meant to linger. You pause, kneel, and touch the ground where you remember the prints had been. The mud is cool, soft beneath your fingertips, unmarked now, except by the gentle ripple of water flowing in tiny streams down toward the hollow. Historians still debate how often storms played this role in the fossil record. How many prints, trackways, and signs of prehistoric life were simply washed away before they could be captured by time. We celebrate the rare moments that were preserved, those fossilized steps frozen in stone. But how many dances were lost forever, erased in a single night like this one? The thought makes you shiver, though, whether from the chill or the awe, you can't quite tell. Here's a strange fact to consider in some parts of the world today. Like the rainforest of South America, entire animal trails are wiped clean with every heavy storm. The forest floor resets, leaving no sign of who passed through. Nature has always been good at covering its tracks. You rise, stretching aching legs, and take in the landscape. The floodplain glistens, pools of water scattered like fragments of the vanished sky. The trees drip steadily, the grass bows under the weight of rain. It's a world remade by the storm, clean, quiet, expectant. And empty. The dancer's trail is gone. The storm's song finished, the land waiting now for the next story to unfold. Your own prints are still visible for the moment, a messy path weaving across the plain, soon to be smoothed away like the dancer's steps. And somehow that feels right. You came as a witness, not as a mark. The storm will have the final say. You begin to walk again, slower now, savoring the hush that follows the rain. Each step leaves a shallow imprint, already filling with water, already fading. And with every footprint, you feel a little more connected to the dancer's vanished trail, as if your steps are part of its story now, a human echo of that ancient rhythm. The land breathes beneath you, the air fresh and cool, the storm's memory lingering in every drop that clings to leaf and stone. You smile despite your soaked clothes and muddy boots, because you've seen the dance even if the earth chose to forget. And that's enough. The world feels quieter now, as if the storm took more than just the tracks with it, as if it carried away the noise, the tension, the very weight of the night. You walk on each step, a soft squelch in the mud, your boots leaving temporary impressions that you know the rain will claim soon enough. You glance back once or twice, watching as your trail blurs behind you, fading as surely as the dancers did. Your thoughts drift as you walk. You think of those theories, the ones that try to explain what you saw. Historians still debate whether dinosaurs could truly read the weather's signs, whether they moved with storms on purpose, or if the patterns we see in their tracks are just coincidences we're desperate to make sense of. You picture a room full of scholars arguing over ancient footprints, papers spread out like maps of the past, fingers jabbing at spirals and arcs drawn in mud millions of years ago. And here you are muddy-soaked, having watched it all with your own eyes. Well, maybe. Maybe your mind filled in the gaps added the music to the dancer's steps, the meaning to the loops and hops. Or maybe you really did witness something sacred, something so old it defies explanation. Either way, it's yours now. A memory the storm couldn't wash away. Here's an odd fact for you to carry with that memory. Some cultures today still read animal tracks in the mud like a storybook, seeing in each print a tale of hunger, of fear, of triumph. The land writes in footprints, and those who know how to look can read its language. Tonight, you tried to read it too. You stop at the edge of the plain where the ground rises drier, hear the mud giving way to firmer soil. The air smells sweet now, washed clean by the rain. The last drops fall from the trees like whispered farewells. You glance back over the floodplain one last time. The dancer's prints are gone, the storm's canvas wiped clean. But in your mind, the pattern remains: the loops, the arcs, the spirals, the pauses, a choreography older than words. You sigh, shoulders relaxing, and turn toward the shelter of the trees, boots light despite the mud. The storm is over. The dance is done. But the story lingers, written not in mud, but in memory. The rain fades to a fine mist, barely more than a breath on your skin, and the first hints of dawn touch the edges of the sky. The storm has moved on, leaving behind a land reborn, washed clean, glistening in the soft light, every stone and blade of grass wearing a silver coat of water. You stand at the edge of the plain, boots caked with mud, heart still beating to the rhythm of the dance you witnessed or imagined, or maybe both. The air is rich with the smell of wet earth, of crushed grass, of life renewed. You breathe it in slow and deep, the storm's tension slipping from your shoulders. The world feels quiet now, like a great beast that's fed well and rests easy. The trees, dark silhouettes against the brightening sky, drip softly, their branches bowing under the weight of rain. The floodplain spreads out before you, a patchwork of puddles and mud, of places where water lingers and places where it drains away, leaving behind a glimmering sheen. Historians still debate whether dinosaurs like your dancer moved with purpose through this kind of dawn, whether they saw the new day as a fresh chance or simply the next step in survival's endless march. Fossil beds sometimes show signs of creatures that traveled after storms, as if drawn by the promise of easy food or clean water. Or maybe, like you, they were just caught in the wonder of a world washed clean. Here's an odd fact to savor with this morning's air. Some modern reptiles are known to bask on wet rocks after a storm, soaking up the dawn's warmth, as if claiming victory over the night's chaos. Maybe the dancer somewhere out there is doing the same, drying its feathers in the first light, watching the land the storm has left behind. You move slowly now, feet light, despite the mud, your pace matching the world's softened rhythm. Every step feels like a gift, a chance to leave your own mark beside the memory of the dancers. You glance back once, and for a heartbeat, you can almost see the footprints again, before the rising sun banishes the shadows and the land becomes only what it is, not what it was. The storm is over, the dance is done, and the earth smells clean. You find yourself standing on a low rise where the ground is firmer, and the morning light spills across the land in soft gold. The storm is just a memory. Now its last whispers carried away on a breeze that smells of wet grass and fresh earth. The floodplain stretches behind you, the place where the dancer once moved, where the prints once spiraled and looped and told their fleeting story. And at your feet, your own footprints, deep, messy, a clumsy trail of heavy boots and uncertain steps beside where the ancient marks had been. You look down at them side by side in the mud, your prints and the ghosts of the dancers, both temporary, both destined to vanish. The rain has already softened the edges of your path. water pooling in the deepest parts, blurring the details until they're no more than shapes in the earth. You smile tired but content as you realize that's how it should be. The dancer left no trace that would last beyond the storm, and neither will you. The land will smooth over both your stories in time. Historians still debate whether we can ever truly read the past from footprints, whether the marks in ancient stone or fresh mud tell us more than we want to see. Are we finding patterns that were never meant to be understood? Or are we glimpsing the echoes of lives that once moved through storms like this, leaving behind messages in mud for those who came after? Here's one last odd fact to carry with you. As you head home, some desert nomads are known to brush away their own tracks behind them, leaving no sign of their passing, as if to remind the land that they were only borrowing it for a little while. You glance back at your trail already vanishing and feel the truth of that. The world around you is quiet, waiting for the sun to rise higher for the next storm, for the next dance. You take one last breath of the clean morning air, then turn and begin the slow walk. Back your steps, light your heart full. Your story part of the lands now written beside the dancers in mud and memory and wonder. And so the storm has passed, leaving behind a land reborn, washed clean, quiet, and glistening beneath the first warm rays of dawn. You've walked the floodplain, boots heavy with mud and heartlight, with wonder tracing the dancer's fleeting trail across the soaked earth. What began as a chance encounter with looping footprints near the storm's edge became a journey through ancient rhythms, through questions as old as time itself. You followed the dancer's spirals and arcs, watched as its steps seemed to speak to the storm, to the rain, to the unseen watchers of the night. You saw how the rain filled those prints, how the storm's fingers smoothed their edges, how the land began to forget almost as soon as it had remembered. You stood witness to a dance that historians still puzzle over, a pattern that may have meant everything or nothing at all. And as you walked, your own prints mingled with those of the dancer, then blurred, then vanished, as the storm's quiet hand erased them both. The land doesn't hold on to such marks for long. But in your memory, the dance remains a creature moving in time with the storm steps written in mud and rain and wonder. Now the world is still. The storm's voice gone, the floodplain waiting for its next story. You leave it behind knowing your trail will soon be smoothed over like the dancers. But the memory is yours to keep, a quiet reminder that sometimes the most fleeting moments are the ones that stay with us the longest.